This is his strength, Solomon Mire.
Solomon, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here with me. What have you been up to since retiring?
Hi, Joel. Thanks a lot for reaching out and coming for a chat. I mean, a lot of people were probably wondering the same question. So I became an Australian citizen whilst I was still playing for Zimbabwe. So I was a bit of a dual citizen there for a little bit and used to fly back and forth. And then when I finished, I pretty much just relocated back. And then, I've been busy trying to catch up on studies, and I've been getting involved in a bit of work in the working life and a couple of outside ventures with a couple of mates. But at the moment, I think I'm doing my best to try and finish my studies. So I've studied before, but this was completely different. So that's been the main thing. And I'm running a cricket academy called the Cutting Edge Cricket, and we run programs there for little crickets, which is the youngsters from about 5 to about 10, and then we run sort of youth programs from about 11 to 18. So yeah, that's kind of like what's been keeping me busy for the last couple of whiles. So yeah.
No problem. No, it's always interesting to be studying, take a break from it, and then get back into it. So just out of sheer curiosity, what is it that you're studying, if you don't mind sharing?
Now I'm doing a Bachelor of Business at the moment.
Okay.
So before that, I studied footwear designing. So it was part of fashion designing. And that was a little bit, trying to tap into my creative side. Whilst you're playing cricket, you find yourself with a little bit of downtime, and you sketch a lot and all that stuff. And I had a background in art and designing, so I wanted to take that seriously. And then afterwards, I kind of realized that, there's a little bit more to learn. So I wanted to just upskill, increase my knowledge, and then obviously broaden my horizons as well, and not just limit myself to one thing.
No problem. Just before we got started, I was actually taking in some of the action for West Indies and Bangladesh, and then India and England. Some very interesting test series going on. But that leads me to ask this question: what do you miss most about international cricket?
The batting. Yeah, the batting has always been, I think if you ask most guys who, they'll probably want to bat till they die. I mean, it's just everything else, the fielding, the bowling, that's a little bit harder on the body. But I think batting is fun. I mean, if you stop performing, I guess that's when you start, losing the love for it. But I think you always miss that feeling of facing the bowlers or swinging the bat.
And you've actually had some very interesting moments with the bat. The times in Sri Lanka when you guys would have won that very famous test series. You had a T20 with Pakistan. You had some very interesting times with the bat. But I want to take it now back to the beginning, where it all began for you. Did you ever imagine that on a day like this, you'll be reflecting on a cricket career?
Nah, I'd be lying if I said I did. I remember as a kid, to be honest. I used to watch, Andy Flower, Heat Streak, Henry Olonga on TV. And I was telling my mum, I was like, I would love to be one of those guys on TV one day. But, you don't really think you're going to get there when you're that young. You're probably just, it's a dream. And then, every day, just as you do more training and you stick at it, things just to start happening. But it was interesting. I didn't really think I'd be here right now. I actually thought I would be still playing maybe for another 3 or 4 years.
No problem. That's actually an interesting statement that I'm probably going to, touch on a little bit later. But as we now venture into the career of Solomon Mire, what was the experience like playing for Zimbabwe at the international level?
It was quite, mixed emotions. I think from reaching your goals perspective and doing what every kid dreams of, getting at that stage and challenging yourself, I think it's the best thing that ever happened to me. It was a culmination of a lot of hard work, a lot of effort that went in, and I think I really treasured those moments, being able to walk out. And I think making my debut in Bangladesh, it was quite an interesting place as well. So it's quite a memorable thing for me, because I think at some point I kind of given up on playing international cricket. I thought, I just wasn't seeing any progress. So to end up doing it, yeah, was quite phenomenal. I think on the flip side, it was quite challenging as well because I was now based in Australia at that time. So there was a lot of things that I had to deal with in terms of flying preparation, having the conversations with the coaches and the administrators, and trying to make sure that I wasn't really taking advantage of anyone or being taken advantage of.
I definitely understand that. And that leads me kind of into the highs and lows of your career, because you'd have mentioned that there was a time when you felt that, you would have given up on international cricket because you didn't think that, you were probably getting the scores or the opportunities that you might have wanted to. So what fueled you in that moment to keep going?
To be honest, it wasn't more so from a performance perspective, because I was based in Australia, I think I kind of lost track of, what my path was because, I was coming through the Australian system, so to speak, trying to make it through the state system, the Big Bash and all that stuff. So the Zimbabwean side of it was a little bit on the back burner, really. It wasn't even in the picture because I'd had conversations with them, and then, hearing to a lot of guys back there saying it's not, everything is not going well, and, things were not really, I suppose interesting enough for me to consider going back. So I was like, I'm probably never going to play for Australia because it's just tough.
Yeah.
But at the same time, going back to Zimbabwe wasn't really appealing. But at some point, I think what happened there was I was performing pretty well in club cricket, and I just knew that if I didn't take any opportunity to play, I was probably, I was going to be spending the rest of my life chasing it here. So when Zimbabwe came calling, it became more of a low-hanging fruit, and I just had to take it because at that time I knew my game was good enough. I'd really tested myself, playing against some of the big players in Australia, and I knew that I just needed the platform. So I ended up, just jumping at the opportunity when it came at the time. So the timing was just perfect.
All right, and then let's head now into the actual moments. For you in your career, what would you say were some of the highlights in your Zimbabwean career?
Well, I suppose the Sri Lankan series will always be the major highlight. I think, winning that series at a time when, people were really, really, I suppose, disappointed a lot in our performances. But we were trying so hard to put a team together. And I think Heat Streak, Lance Klusner, really brought, a good team together. We were gelling pretty well. And then, we had a nice lead in. I think that whole era with Heat Streak and Lance Klusner, for me, it really stands out. There's my main, I suppose, highlight. And then the tri-series I played with Australia and Pakistan, the T20 series, when I made my highest T20 score, that was also a highlight for me because, I knew I was always a better T20 player. I think that was my strongest area, but I think not many people knew that. So just because we didn't play so much, and when we got the opportunity to do that, I was quite happy to actually showcase some of my skills. And then I suppose, people talk about the 6 against Morne Morkel during the World Cup, all that stuff. So, yeah, that's the fun side of it, But I think almost every series I played, I hit a 6 or something like that made me feel pretty good. So, yeah, I wasn't really worried about the 1 or 6s. I was more about what made the team, or what got the team in a good position.
It's interesting because of how much passion you speak with it right now as you look back on the memories. And you kind of alluded to it earlier in the sense that you never thought that, it would have ended in the way it did. You said that, you figured that you probably have about another 2-3 years in it. So my question here is, if Zimbabwean cricket wasn't in the state that it was in 2019, would you have continued your career?
To be honest, yeah, well, I probably would have. Yeah, I probably would have, to be honest. I think it wouldn't have ended the way it did. And to be honest, there was a combination of factors, it didn't just start then. The problem started probably after the qualifiers when we didn't make it to the World Cup.
Yeah.
I think that's when, the thoughts started coming into my head. It's a big thing to let a whole nation down. It's really tough to really, get yourself back up and push when you know that a lot of people are not really happy in the system. And the fact that it felt like there were tantrums being thrown around, everyone's getting sacked. We lost a crucial game, but we had put in a lot of work and we were gelling pretty well. I think if we had got a bit of backing as a group, regardless of our failures, I think we would have come back in some way, shape, or form, or even try to make it the T20 World Cup. But I think at that particular point, that became a bit of a watershed moment, because after that, the thought was with me that all the little things that didn't really matter to me started mattering, and all the things that were just ignored just started to get bigger and bigger. And then eventually, when you change coaches, they come in with their own ideas, and being a person that lives across the world, the logistics and everything else, everything just started falling apart. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. So yeah, it so happened that the timing was just not right.
I can definitely understand the line you're going down, and I want to kind of touch on that point with regards to that moment where you guys didn't get over the line. I believe it was UAE that you guys were playing against. It came down to the last over. What was it like, being there? As you mentioned, it was like you let down an entire nation, but take me back to that moment for you, how it all unfolded for the Zimbabwean team.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those games that, until the very last ball, you still think we're going to get there. You're like, you can't believe it until it actually, like, the game is over, you're walking off and you're like, geez, this actually happened. We actually lost the game. Because, I think maybe we were caught, a little bit, I suppose, maybe, I don't know if it was one of our relaxed moments, or was it, I don't know, whether, a couple of things didn't go our way on the day, the rain, losing the toss. And I don't know if we lost the toss, actually, I'm not too sure. But I mean, a couple of things that probably could have gone our way and didn't, the Duckworth Lewis and all that other stuff, the calculations, the shortened game. And then the guys just, the UAE guys just coming in and playing probably their best game of the tournament. So these things happen. I mean, I was talking to someone about it, and I was like, Italy didn't qualify for the World Cup, and they've won it 5 times or something like that in the soccer. So I was like, they didn't really throw the towel, did they? I mean, they knew they had to get back on the horse and find a way back into the international arena. So we could have probably just dusted ourselves up a little often and come back stronger. But it's a big thing to lose for smaller nations, because it's everyone's hopes is hanging on that. So yeah, it's unlucky, it's unfortunate.
It's just one of those things that happens in life. But as you say, coming out of that, things start to kind of going towards emotion of, maybe it would be the end of your international career, coming out of that, onwards from there. And you actually made a statement whereby you said that international cricket will always be your biggest lesson in life. So I want to know, what are some of the lessons that international cricket taught you?
Well, for starters, it sounds cliche, but, timing is the most important thing. When you're batting, they talk about power, brute force, all this stuff, but you still need timing. I think in life, you realize that, the right opportunity at the right time is, a different, timing is important in a lot of things, regardless of what you do. That's one thing. Failure is part of life. You don't, just throw in the towel because you failed once. You got to be able to come back again and again. And in cricket, you fail more than you succeed. So I really have so much respect for the guys I play with, because before I got there, guys were failing a lot more. And even when I left, I'm just to be able to back it up. And I really struggled because I was a sore loser. So I just, whenever you lose a game, you're really, it's really hard to come back again. So to be able to sort of go through those moments, I suppose you can call it the humiliation as well, in front of crowds, going to Bangladesh, getting whitewashed or something like that. It's really brutal. And then to be able to come back takes a lot of a lot of courage, a lot of a lot of confidence. So those are really important lessons. I mean, preparation is key, but also it doesn't guarantee success. So no matter how hard you prepare, you're not guaranteed to make runs, but you give yourself the best chance. So this is some of the stuff that really will always stay with me. And cricket really tested me out. I only played 2 test matches, but I've got so much respect for guys that play 100 test matches, because what my body felt like, I mean, I was carrying a few niggles, so it didn't really help, but I just have so much respect for guys that come in and bowl, 20 overs first innings, 20 overs second innings, or, you're fielding all day, it's just amazing. So I just got a really profound respect for people that pursue long careers, and they go through so many highs and lows and still have to back it up. And it's part of you never really master it. You're always a student. So I learned a fair bit, clearly.
You definitely did. I mean, you were there and you experienced it, and hopefully, a couple of youngsters who are watching this, really zeroes in and hones in on the lessons that you would have learned. But as we begin to wrap up, Solomon, since the moment of your retirement and coming out with that Zimbabwe were then reinstated later that year into international cricket, it's been somewhat of a rocky time. So having been there and still being able to kind of, have a form of connection to the Zimbabwean cricket team, do you see a way forward for Zimbabwe cricket?
I've pondered that question a couple of times because it's been brought to me by other people as well, and I definitely feel like Zimbabwe's got economic problems that are always going to impact the development side of cricket. I feel like what they need to do, they're going to require a certain amount of money to do it, and they're going to struggle in that department. But if I was to put a map forward for Zimbabwean cricket, I would probably say, looking at the time that I was involved, I think Zimbabwe don't play enough games at home. I look at the teams that we played against, the Afghanistanis, the Bangladeshis. We lost a lot on the road, but then every time we played at home, I felt like we gave teams a pretty good run. I feel like if we're trying to get points or we're trying to get a good standing on the international standings, we really need to play a lot of games at home, which Zimbabwe probably can't afford at the moment, not having the money. So that's one thing I would definitely recommend. I mean, the second thing that I think Zimbabwe could do with is probably getting a lot of the former players involved. I mean, when I grew up, I looked up to the Heat Streaks and the Olongas and stuff like that, and getting the opportunity to interact with those guys really helped. So I don't think a lot of kids have that information. I mean, I look at the system here in Australia. Guys have got easy access to a Ricky Ponting or a Shane Warne and stuff like that. But the Zimbabwean heroes, the people just talk about them, but there's not even one masterclass from Andy Flower. There's no one masterclass from Henry Olonga. What made him so successful? I think a lot of kids are detached, or they're missing out on that history of what made those guys so great. Because a lot of people complain and they talk a lot, but there's not much action. So I feel like if Zimbabwe could find a way to get some of the youngsters to be inspired by what those guys did, maybe learn their stories, learn how they trained. I'm sure you would know in the West Indies, you've got a lot of guys like Chris Gale, they're accessible, your Brian Laras. Zimbabwe doesn't have a lot, so they just got to make use of whatever they've got. I mean, that would be the quickest way, probably starting young now with the younger generations coming up.
No problem. Well, Solomon, it's been an absolute pleasure having this chat with you. I know that it's pretty late there where you are in Australia, so I'm going to let you head off and get some sleep. But once again, just want to say thank you and wishing you all the best in your future endeavors.
Cheers, man. It was good to chat to you.